Greetings and grand rising, depending where you are in the world. I am Revered Minister Zebi, and also, amongst many other things, just like yourselves, I am a High Priestess of the Kemetic Order. And my message to you today is colonization. Colonization. Most people know that word, they've heard of colonization, where one power that deems itself aggressively superior to other people invade brutally, conquer lands and conquer people and colonize their lands. They don't just colonize the lands, but they also colonize the minds, the mental thinking of those people of the lands, and replace their traditions, their cultures, their monarchies with false cultures, false traditions, false monarchies, and false values. It's done systematically, based on lies, to control, oppress, suppress, and to rule for the wealth of those lands. The powers that be and the system that has been reigning for hundreds of years, yes, it's falling. No system stays in place forever, no matter how clever they seem to have been. And this brings me to back in, I think it was the 90s, the early 1990s, when there was this whole thing in England about acid rain and what emergency measures to take because of this acid rain that was on the way. And central government and local governments taxed the people, for emergency relief because of the acid rain that was on the way. Well, we're now in 2025 and the acid rain has still not landed. And there's no state of emergency due to acid rain. However, the people are still being taxed for the relief of acid rain. So this is where the system is very, very clever. It changes timelines. It puts stories out there and then it jumps timelines. And people forget, that, we're still paying taxes for this acid rain that is non-existent. And if it exists somewhere in a research lab. And then that brought me onto food, what is healthy, what is not healthy. And the foods that we purchase for consumption, it's not real food, it's filth. It's not organic. It's chemicals and all sorts of other materials that they put into our food. And this food is toxic, it's poisonous, and it renders the body sick. And when the body becomes sick, then they prescribe medications for you that have serious side effects and basically dump all this poison into your body. So you cannot feel good inside yourself. You won't feel better. You just get sicker and sicker, and then you die. But the system is making a profit. It's all about profit. Hand over fist, profit. So what's the psychological effect of colonization and the system of colonization? Well, we know it enslaved people. It enslaved the minds of people. And it's not just people that live in so-called third world countries. There's no second world. Third world countries, another label, negative, derogative label. It's also in the West, because you also colonized living in the West. You're told how to think, what to eat, what medicines to take, what hours to work, what your value is and your labor is. And no matter how hard you work, you're still being robbed. You're being robbed left, right, and center, because what you're earning, you cannot live on it. Everything's tax, it's taxation, taxation, taxation. And when you're in need, whatever you banked into the system, you're not going to get it back. It's gone. It's gone forever. And then we have false governments elected by the people to represent the people. But they're not there in the interests of the people or in the interests of humanity. They're there for self-interests, and it's an abuse of power. The politicians own the businesses, their families own the businesses, they're in bed with all the globalists, they're in bed with all the CEOs or CEOs, and basically they keep the wealth for themselves at the top of the pyramid. Every decision they make is not in the interest of the people, it's in the interest of themselves. All they do is oppress and suppress the people and steal from the people, and yet still they criminalize the people. So we live in, well, we were living in a very materialistic world where dog eats dog. You know, it's take, and get one over on the other person. And if you can do that successfully, then you're someone to be looked up to, because you're made. So we still live in colonization. Modern colonization is not as brutal as the old colonization, where brute force, torture, maiming, murdering, killing took place wantonly, to imprison and condition the lands of the people and the minds of the people. Modern colonization lures you into a falsehood that you feel free. You're in the land of the free, but there's nothing free about it. It's constrictions and constraints, and you're still enslaved. So, colonization has learnt to wear a mask, the mask of the do-gooder. Yeah? They're doing good for the benefit of the people. They're putting things in place for the safety and protection of the people. They're giving aid to nourish the sick and the old and the feeble and those that might be experiencing starvation because of some sort of catastrophe. It's all a lie. It was your money, your property, your wealth from the beginning. So that brings me on to the Earth split. And the split, it has happened. It really has happened. There's those of you that have awakened. Some of you awakened decades ago. Some of you are just waking up. And what it is, you're feeling, you're seeing, you're hearing the truth from the lies. You're speaking the truth from the lies, right? Everything is being revealed. Who is who? You know, who's wearing a mask? The veil has fallen. There's no pretense. You can see through the false narrative. You can see through the propagandas. You can see through the whole construct of the lie that people have been conditioned to buy into and to believe and to live their life under those false premises. So basically, chosen ones, and if you don't know this, you know it now. You're all living on a plantation. All of you have been living on a plantation without being aware of it. That's what colonization is. Put the people on plantation, harvest the resources of the earth, harvest the energy of the people, and keep them mentally brainwashed, conditioned, and restricted so they do not think for themselves. And if they do feel for themselves, they don't understand what their feelings are and they act out. So, if the old paradigm that is fallen, right, has been and is still based on the system of plantation, who runs it? Who rules it? We've got private companies, privatization, privateers equals pirates. So it's the pirates who are at the helm of running the world. They're all pirates. They're just there to smash, grab, greed, to feather their own pocket. Instead of them walking around with a wooden leg like Long John Silver and a hook for a hand like Captain Hook, they now wear suits and manicured nails. And instead of being in sailing boats, they move across the world in private jets. And it's the private pirates that have been running the world for the last so-called modernization from medieval times, which I call that middle of evil. So there's 3 things in the world that you have been taught not to speak about. Religion, politics, money. Now, why do you think the powers that were have told you not to talk about these 3 things? Because if you question religion, you'll begin to see it makes no sense. There's myths, and there's legends, and there's the truth. You're born into a belief system. And when you're born, you don't question anything. You just take it on as truth until it no longer resonates with you. And that can be from the age of 3 to 20 odd. It does not resonate with you. And then you have to go through the whole thing, right, of questioning, seeking, right, and tearing down the false belief system that you was fed from the day you was born. So it's just easier to say not to question it. It's gospel, it's sacred. Just follow blindly, like a sheep. And then politics. They don't want you to talk about politics, because if you start to talk about politics, you're going to learn about the ins and outs and the nitty-gritty of politics, and you're going to find out what politics is really about. It's the pirates running the world. And the other thing is, why not talk about politics? It runs the world, so therefore, you chosen ones, you live, you breathe, you sleep, you eat politics. So it's important that you have an understanding of what politics is and what it means for you and your future generation. And then money. Well, why not talk about money? Why not talk about, economics, world economics, the distribution of money, the interest of money, because they want you to keep dumb down. You're a labourer, you're a servant, you're a slave, right? Put up, shut up, do not question anything, and then we can keep, the status quo going for as long as they can. How does money work? What is money? Well, we know it's energy. It's energy, right? How does the banking system work? How does transactions from one country to another country work, from a company to a company, and within private families? These three things is knowledge. And I always say knowledge is power. Right, so I did a lot of talking. Now I am going to see what the cards have to say, see what the ancestors have to say on what I just said about the old world order, because it is the old world order. You need to have knowledge of how it worked, and history is important, even though the hidden truth, it's all being revealed. Let's take that one. So we've got 6 of cups, I think that is. I'll check it. One, two, three, four, 5 of Pentacles. Yeah, I'll do one more. There we go. And Justice. Okie dokie. Six of Cups. 6 of Cups is building foundations, abundance, right? Taking care of others, taking care, especially because we have here an older sibling and a younger child, right? And the older child is giving a cup to the younger child. So it's passing on knowledge, taking care of the next generation, future generation, and intimacy, not being afraid to share knowledge and to speak the truth. Abundance. Yeah. Instead of putting their faith in others, buildings, and institutions, putting their faith in their own inner self, knowing thyself, and guiding the younger generation to know their self sooner rather than later. And then we have the 5 of Pentacles. And the Five of Pentacles, we have people left out in the cold. We have a beggar and a poor woman. And they are actually walking by an institution, looks like a religious institution, stained glass windows. There is snow on the ground. So yeah, leaving behind the false narrative, the false belief systems, the false values. Where do the weak turn to when they need strength? Where do the strong turn to when they need strength? Everything you know is within the open heart. And then we have justice. Justice will always prevail across timelines, dimensions, and realms. Balance. So the new earth paradigm is going to be more judicial and equal. There'll be less disadvantages. There won't be anybody left out in the cold. There won't be poverty. There won't be sufferation. Because, you know, there's enough wealth on the land for nobody to be in lack. It's the distribution of the wealth that causes the disadvantages and poverty, suffering and disease. And I've not even mentioned the destruction and of people and land that is still ongoing right now on the continent of Africa, in the so-called Middle East, that didn't come into existence until after the Second World War. So there you are. You know, no matter where you are in the world and what you may be going through, right, it's the same. It's similar. We understand that the construct in each country will be different, right? But how it affects the people is precisely the same. These false governments, they are falling. These false institutions and establishments, they are falling. Religion, politics, and the distribution of wealth and money. You cannot blind the chosen ones. You cannot blind the people anymore. You just have to switch on your TV, your phone, your internet, and you can see the state of play that's been going on in the world. The authorities, their voices that used to control. Where's the voice of the innocent? Where's the voice of those that are suffering? Where's the voice of the poor? They took away the voices of the people and gave us their voices and gave us their rules. And all of it there, right? Not for you, not for me, for them. And when you look at their track record, and when you look at the history, right, of what they've actually done to people and to the earth, they are evil. They are pure evil. I'm going to draw an oracle card, and then I'm going to close this message. So I'm going to choose from the starseed, because we are stardust. We are beings of light, and we cannot, and we will not, and no longer be contained. So spiritual soldiers, spiritual warriors, spiritual healers. I salute you all. It's not been easy. But you're here. You're all still standing. You're here. So what have we got? Loosen your grip. Coping mechanism, density, addiction, let God in. And there has been a lot of density around the chosen ones. The chosen ones might not show on you. You might not look it. But a chosen one has been through the ringers. Mentally, emotionally, physically, even spiritually. To come into their being. So loosen your grip. Let's find that. You know, this is never in alphabetical order. Loosen your grip. Ah, found it. So, we're I can't say it. Cyclic beings. That means everything is in a cycle. And Mother Earth teaches us how to be human every day, with the coming and going of the tides and the seasons. If you're clinging to anything, you are resisting the natural flow of who you are. The things we cling to are so often those we most need to let go of. The food, the substance, the relationship, the job, the people pleasing. The things we cling to often cover up our most vulnerable space, the part we're most afraid to leave empty, the part we guard and don't let grace into. But by keeping that space covered with something that doesn't serve us, or clinging to it for fear of it not staying of its own accord, we prevent ourselves from receiving the things that will. A Course in Miracles tells us whatever we leave empty, grace will fill. And the Buddha said, you can only lose what you cling to. Indeed, both are true. Now, this card appeared because you're being called to find the courage to loosen your grip and give up control, to release your coping mechanism and leave space for grace and God to enter, to surrender all that feels dense to the divine. Loosen your grip doesn't mean that what you're clinging to will go away. It may, or it may not. But you can be sure that what is for you will find you, and you'll breathe easier, knowing that you've shifted from relying on your own strength to surrendering to the grace of life. So Starseed Soul Inquiry, what are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? What are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? What are you clinging to for fear of nothing coming to take its place? Do not cling to the old systems and the old paradigms that are waning away. Have faith and trust that what replaces it will be divine, and it will also be better for you and for the betterment of the world at large. And now I'm going to close this message, and if it resonated with you, please do share, thumbs up, comment, or subscribe, and then the message can be, reached further and to more chosen ones like yourself. Right, And I am an African. I'm also, like you, a chosen one. So therefore, I have greatness, love, and abundance within me, around me, and every place that I go. Divine oneness and peace out, beloved.